Hello there, Salim Omar here from the e-commerce Money Map podcast. I've got a special guest with us. Her name is Emma Tamir. Emma, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Awesome, likewise. Emma transforms her insatiable curiosity into conversion spiking copy through her thoughtful approach, proven copywriting tactics, and winning strategies. Emma has led her team at Marketing by Emma to help over 2,000 businesses from around the world to boost their sales and build their brands online. As a thought leader and trusted consultant in the e commerce and Amazon space, Emma demystifies complex topics like marketing, e commerce, and branding to make them accessible for all backgrounds. Emma, this is stuff that's going to speak to an e commerce owner is how do I market? How do I grow my business? How do I stand out? What do I need to do to get my sales up and to really build a loyal customer base? And we'll start off, Emma. I mean, we know that, we see that, it's a fact that competition's increasing, right? Higher ed costs, more competitors, more, by the day. What are the tools? How does one stand out? How does one e-commerce company stand out? How do they build this loyal customer base?
Yeah, it is becoming very tricky also with AI. It makes it so easy for lots of people to create lots of content very quickly. And so it can feel like you're drowning, and it can feel very difficult to actually get your voice heard. But ultimately, at the end of the day, as humans, we're all still always looking for connection and for opportunities to feel seen, understood, heard. And so brands that are able to do this really effectively have still an opportunity to be able to create those connections, to be able to cultivate those relationships, and to be able to establish a really healthy business with a lot of growth in its future. But it's not easy. And so it's both the same and different. It's doing all of the things that we always know we need to be doing, but with an even stronger sense of clarity and precision in how you are fitting into the wider conversation. Because it's very rare that a company is coming out and is in a category all its own. We're almost always entering into a category where we already have stiff competition, or we've been in that category and now there have been a lot of other people that are coming in and they're starting to take away our market share. And so really drilling down is an integral part of being able to stay competitive now and into the future.
All right, cool. Love that. So give us a few tips, techniques, strategies on how do we connect with our customer at a personal level as well? How do we really make that connection?
So first you have to understand who your customer is. If you're just talking to a general blob of people that are
Mm,
out there on the internet, then you're going to lack conviction and clarity and focus with everything that you're creating. And by the way, when we talk about marketing and branding, I think a lot of times our minds get stuck in a very limited scope of what that means for our business. But when you really commit to this and think deeply and develop out all of these different pieces, then it's actually going to help inform every single decision that you make within your business, from what products to launch, to how to package your products, to how to position them in the market, how to actually create the content. All of those things are informed by the decisions that we're making. And so, of course, if you're wanting to build meaningful relationships, you have to know who you're talking to. And a great tool for that is something called a customer avatar, which is essentially a really specific, clear profile of who your target customer is. You should at least have one of these. You can have a few of them if you have a few kind of main buckets of your customers, but you need to get very specific about who you're selling to. Because if you're just saying, well, I'm selling to anybody between the ages of 18 and 99, then it's really going to be diluting what it is that you're saying and who you're talking to, and it's going to be very easy to get lost in the sea of a bunch of a bunch of brands that are very clear about who they're selling to. And the way that you would talk to an 18-year-old living in a rural area is going to be very different than a 35-year-old living in a metropolitan area is going to be very different than a 70-year-old living in the suburbs. And you want to get even more specific than that. But ideally, you should do enough work on this that you can easily picture who your customers are so that you're able to speak directly to them. And what's that going to do? That's going to help you select the kinds of vocabulary to use, the things that you're talking about, the references that you're making to other things. All of that is going to be affected by who you're talking to. And we do this naturally in conversation, but we sometimes forget to do this when we are just kind of thinking about, okay, what can we do to sell more product, to stand out? Our instinct is oftentimes to go broader, but in fact, we want to kind of fight that instinct and go the opposite way and get clearer and more specific whenever possible.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Get to know your customer, who your ideal customer is, get to really know them so you can speak to them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've thought of always that as, having the right market to message match. The more aligned we are, we got the market, we create a message that really speaks to that market. Yeah. The more we get that nailed, the more effective our messaging is going to be. It's going to speak to the person that matters, which is our customer.
Absolutely. It's so vital. And a lot of times we'll mistakenly run everything through what we perceive as good. But if we are not our customers, that can lead us down the wrong path. So an example that comes to mind is a few years ago, we were working with someone who was selling a product meant for ballet dancers. And he developed this product because his daughter had this need for this type of item, and there really wasn't anything for her on the market. And when we delivered the work for him, he was like, I'm not convinced by this. And he was failing to remember that he wasn't the one that was the intended audience for this product, that his daughter was. And so when he had his daughter read it, she said, yes, absolutely, this is spot on. And so it's so important to make sure that, yes, our opinions are valid and important, but they're not always going to serve us if we're thinking about ourselves and forgetting who the intended audience is.
Yeah, that's so important. It can so easily be overlooked, right? Is thinking that we are the customer and remembering that we are not.
Right.
Now, so we do this, we understand who our customer avatar is, we really get that nailed down. But then what if there's like 20 other or 100 other companies that are doing that? How does one create that unique selling proposition or unique value proposition? How do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself from all the competitors who may be saying the same thing or they've really got it nailed down as well?
Yeah, fantastic question. There are two pieces of this that I think are important to discuss. So one piece is, you mentioned other competitors. So in order to figure out how to position yourself, you need to get a really solid sense of who you're competing against. And so even if there are a lot of other competitors that are selling to these different customers, you need to do your research to understand what are they calling out as their unique selling proposition? How are they interacting with their customers? What are the different gaps that you might start to identify as opportunities of things that either your competitors are ignoring or not doing a good job of, or simply only, even though you're targeting the same customer, they're taking a different angle from it. And so that research is going to be able to start to shape some of the choices that you might have at your disposal for your unique selling proposition and for your value proposition and for some of these other things. But you don't want to create those purely based on what your competitors are doing. That's just to start to get a sense of figuring out where you fit in, because ultimately sales is giving customers the information they need to choose you over all of the other options that are out there. So we don't want to be thinking of our products and our brands and ourselves in a vacuum. We want to be making these decisions within the context of the competitive landscape that we are operating in. So then the other piece of that is the exact same thing that you did for your customers with the customer avatar, you want to do for your business in crafting a brand identity. And this can be a really fun exercise to do, where you imagine if my brand were a person walking around this world, engaging with people, how would they show up? What would be their interests? What kind of clothing would they wear? What are their favorite restaurants? What influencers do they follow? What are their favorite TV shows? And this is really helpful for a couple of reasons. One is it helps to pinpoint some things that can be a little bit difficult to communicate in other ways. Like, let's say that you know that your brand has a sense of humor, but the style of that sense of humor is going to be influenced by a lot of other factors. And so if you want to make sure that everyone that you're working with is on the same page, saying, my brand is a millennial living in Portland, Oregon, wearing flannel shirts, whose favorite show is Silicon Valley, and they love Elon Musk and all these things, you start to get a sense of who this person is and the specific kind of sense of humor that they have. And so now we're able to have a conversation because we have the customer and we're clear on who they are. And we have the brand and we're clear on who they are. And a lot of times this brand piece is actually going to be the thing that is giving you your unique selling proposition and is building out and also giving you that differentiation from your competitors that you may not have on a product level. And so a great example of this is coffee. Coffee is essentially a commodity, right? So you can have it roasted differently, you can have it sourced from different places, but there aren't that many things that you have that you can do to the coffee itself to differentiate it. So a lot of what sets different coffee brands apart is actually who they're selling to and who they are as a brand. And so an example of a brand that's done this really effectively is a brand called Black Rifle Coffee Company. And so Black Rifle Coffee Company, they're a veteran-owned business, and they're very clear about their values of supporting the military and law enforcement, and that is a central part of how they name their products, the imagery on their packaging, the way that they communicate on their website and across all the other platforms where they show up on social media and on Amazon and beyond. And so they have a very clear sense of who they are and who their customers are. And so they're able to build a relationship that transcends just the coffee itself into an alignment on values and an alignment on a shared set of principles that they're using to go through the world and identify who they are and all of those things. And the coffee essentially just happens to be the vehicle that they've chosen to do that. But they could just as easily do that with almost any other product. They could do it with coffee mugs, or they could do it with pens, I mean, it doesn't have to be coffee. So that's where you need to be really thinking very strategically and critically. And what's going to be difficult about that is also going to draw a very clear line of who isn't your customer. Because not everybody is going to feel excited about a coffee company that is
Mm,
proudly supporting the military and law enforcement and weapons. Those are very divisive issues that people have strong feelings about. So in the
mm.
same way that the people that are strongly supportive of those are going to be excited by this, there will also be on the other side people that are not excited about that. And that friction is actually a good thing, and can be a really powerful tool that brands can use to engage with their customers, but it requires a commitment and being bold in drawing that line that can feel intimidating for a lot of businesses.
Wow, this is so good. So much good knowledge you're sharing. How does this translate to how the business shows up? Knowing the customer avatar, the brand identity, becoming clear about that, becoming clear about what are competitors doing, what are the things that's going to make us stand out. How does it show up? Is it like in the copy, in the website, in the marketing messaging, in emails? How does it all kind of come together?
It should all be coming together everywhere. And that's where this clarity is going to help everything be in alignment, especially when you have multiple people responsible for all of these different
Mm,
things. Being clear about who your customers are, who your brand is, and the landscape that you're competing in is going to arm people with the information that they need to then act in alignment with all of these different activities. But ultimately, what you need to be doing is you need to be making sure that if you're, let's use a different example. Let's say that you are selling skincare for people that are in their 60s and 70s. So they already have wrinkles and some of the concerns that a younger demographic is trying to prevent against. And so you want to make sure that your language is speaking to them, because it's not about necessarily preventing wrinkles or looking like you're 20, because that's just
mm,
unrealistic without medical intervention. But it's about maybe helping them look and feel their best where they are, minimizing the appearance of some of the things that they already have, and really embracing their confidence at this stage of life. You want that to be in the text of things. But if you're going to have pictures of people in their 20s and 30s on social media and on your website and all over there's a very big disconnect there.
correct.
People
Yeah.
want to see themselves in their marketing. So it's both in feeling like they relate to the words that you're
Mm,
saying, as well as that you're reflecting to them in the imagery that you're using. Or if you say you're a sustainably minded company, but you're shipping your product with a lot of excess packaging, that's also not in alignment. And so this clear set of that's when I was mentioning how this isn't just about the marketing, this is where you start to see that, where this informs the packaging choices that you're going to make, that informs the language that you're using with your customer service, all of those different things. The more that they can be dialed in and honed into who your customer is and who your brand is, the more compelling everything is going to be, the more cohesive it's all going to feel. And another thing that you need to be careful of is when there is that mismatch, like pictures of people in their 20s with text that's trying to speak to people in their 60s, that can actually feel very manipulative to a customer, because it starts to
mhm.
seem like, are they just saying this to win me over, but I'm not really their customer? And
Right.
so that's the other piece, is that actually doing a really good job of this is another way of being able to build trust and connection, which is essential to creating that relationship with your customers.
These strategies that you're sharing, they apply to e-commerce business owners across many different brands and channels. You know, Talking about Amazon, it's a unique marketplace. Uh, do the rules, like do these strategies apply in the Amazon space as well, or is it different?
They do, and also they are even more complicated by a few factors. One is if you're selling on your own website, then once you get someone to your site, they're somewhat of a captive audience where unless they choose to leave your site, you have the opportunity to control where they go and the messaging that they're getting. However, on Amazon, it's very different. All of your competitors are right there.
Right.
And so all of the things that we've spoken about, having a clear sense of who your competitors are, what makes you different, who your customers are, you need to have an even stronger sense of that on Amazon because you're going head to head against them in a very aggressive way. You're also much more limited with how you present all of these things because Amazon is very rigid about the different fields that you have, how you utilize those fields. You have more rules about what you can and cannot say. So there's a lot of nuance to understanding the specifics of how SEO works, how the terms of service dictates that brands communicate, and then how the whole competition works that makes your landing page need to be a really strong distillation of all of these things that we spoke about, and then adding in some of these other elements that you don't need to be as mindful about if you are just creating your own standalone website.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. This is so good. I'm really enjoying it. We're coming to the tail end of our interview. I've heard that you've recently started a YouTube channel. Is that a true fact?
It is indeed a true fact. And not only
Uh-huh.
that, but a lot of these topics that we've spoken about today, I have videos about. So whether you're wanting to dive deeper into how to create a customer avatar or brand identity, I would love for you to come join me over there. It's Marketing by Emma is the name of the channel. And also, if you have other topics you'd like to see me cover, let me know.
Awesome, great. What's the best way, Emma, for folks to reach out to you?
Our website, marketingbyemma.com, is a central hub of all of the contact methods that you might want. So if you want to fill out a form, but we also have our phone number, our email, all of our social channels listed there. We're pretty much everywhere from WhatsApp to Facebook to LinkedIn, you name it. And we're happy to meet clients where they are, and we'd love to help in whatever way that we can.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right. You too. Bye.
Thank you.